Imagine this. It's a quiet evening and you're home by yourself. You hear the door knock, so you walk over to answer it. As you walk to the door, a strange sense of dread comes over you, but you don't really know why. You open the door and see a child looking down. In a monotone voice, he asks if he can come in. A bit confused, you ask him what he needs. He says that you should invite him in, that he needs to use your phone, and that it won't take long. But something inside you tells you shouldn't let him inside. He says again that you should invite him inside in that creepy monotone voice. He raises his head to look you in the eyes, and that's when you see it. His eyes are completely black. It's unclear as to exactly when the strange phenomenon began. Encounters with black-eyed children have been most common and with increasing frequency over the past 3 decades. However, similar events have been reported around the world going back to antiquity. Author and investigator David Weatherly has devoted several years studying these strange encounters and compiling them into his book, The Black-Eyed Children. He has been interviewed by numerous reputable talk shows on the paranormal, such as Coast to Coast AM and Veritas Radio. The following soundbite is from a David Weatherly interview on Veritas.
Let's come back to the topic at hand, black-eyed children. This is a pretty scary topic, in my opinion, because when you think of children, you think of innocence, you think of purity. You don't think of the possibility of these kids being evil. It's contrary to our emotions. So, first of all, describe what a black-eyed children is.
This phenomena, essentially, these are children that are showing up at completely seemingly at random. They show up at people's doorsteps, their places of business. They approach cars in parking lots. They usually fall between the ages of 8 and 13 years old. That's what we hear the most. They have pale skin. They have completely black eyes, not just the pupil, but the entire sclera. The whole eye is solid black. They have very strange mannerisms. They usually, there's a few variations in how they're attired. It's usually very drab clothing. Sometimes it's described as old-fashioned or handmade. Sometimes a hand-me-down because it's often described as ill-fitting. They're equally as often seen in more modern clothing, such as just jeans and hooded sweatshirts, but again, very drab colors, grays, browns, and blacks. When they show up, they proceed to try to get an invitation out of the person they're encountering to come inside. So a typical encounter, will involve these kids knocking on the door. Here's one of the quirky things. They never seem to use the doorbell. It's always this long, monotonous knock at the door. When the person answers...
Knock. You usually do this very nicely when you do your lectures. Knock. Yeah.
Yeah, it just continues. And it's one of those things, I think, that even from the initial part of the confrontation, it's almost as if it's designed to slightly confuse people, because the average person, if they're in their home, they expect the doorbell to go off if someone visits.
Right.
And, I've talked to a good number of these people who they say that initially they stood there for a moment thinking, is someone knocking on my door? Why is the doorbell not going off? And a person will go to the door, and there are anywhere from 1 to 3 of these kids standing on the steps. They usually will have their heads down so that their faces aren't completely revealed at first. And they'll issue a strange statement, something like, why don't you just invite us in? or we just thought we'd stop by for a bit. And these are people that have never seen these children before in their lives. They don't know them. One of the most stunning accounts, as you saw in the book, is from a gentleman named Paul, who actually sort of initiated my whole exploration into this phenomenon. And Paul was at home and heard this long knock at the door. When he went to the door and opened it, he found two boys standing there.
Is it always boys, or are there also girls?
There are girls that show up, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And these two boys had their heads slightly tilted down, and indeed, when he opened the door, what they said was, hey, we just thought we'd stop in for a bit. Their speech is usually described as being very monotone. And, Paul was kind of taken aback, like anyone would be, and he said, I think you guys have the wrong house. And the response was, we'll just come in anyway. And it's this very cold way of speaking. They don't use a whole lot of phrases, but they tend to repeat. If the encounter goes on, they tend to repeat the phrases over and over again. People believe that these kids are attempting some type of hypnosis or mind control. After the encounter has occurred, they talk about feeling strange when the kids were speaking, and feeling this odd sensation. There's a lot of confusion that occurs.
There are many beliefs regarding what the black-eyed children are, from alien hybrids to demonic entities to nothing more than pale human kids with black contacts out to spook people, just to name a few. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Hey everyone, Drew here from Mad Cat Mysteries, and I hope you enjoyed the video you just watched. If you did, you can click on the subscribe button below. I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.